the strictest empire that operated in plain sight. When we think of empires, we often imagine vast lands ruled by emperors, filled with cities bustling with trade and culture. But some empires did not expand through conquest alone. Some ruled through discipline, control, and an iron fist way of life that molded its people into unbreakable warriors. The Spartan Empire was one such civilization, one of the strictest, most disciplined societies in history. Operating in plain sight of the ancient world, Sparta's rule was not about grandeur or riches, but about absolute control, unwavering obedience, and a way of life that left no room for weakness. Sparta was not a typical empire. Unlike Athens, which celebrated philosophy, democracy, and artistic achievements, Sparta was an empire of warriors, built entirely around the concept of military dominance and social order. It was a land where boys were taken from their families at the age of 7 and trained ruthlessly to become elite soldiers. It was a place where the state dictated every aspect of life, from marriage to education, from food consumption to personal relationships. In a world where city-states were constantly at war, Sparta's strict system made it one of the most feared and respected military powers in history. The birth of a warrior society. The foundation of Sparta's empire was its military and social structure. The backbone of this structure was the agode, an extreme training system that transformed boys into the world's most formidable warriors. At the age of 7, Spartan boys were ripped from their homes and placed in state-run military training camps. These children were stripped of comfort, subjected to brutal physical and mental conditioning, and taught that pain, suffering, and discipline were the ultimate virtues. The agode was more than just a training program. It was a way of life that shaped every Spartan into a fearless soldier who would put the state above all else. Physical endurance was only part of the training. Spartans were deliberately underfed to encourage them to steal food, but if caught, they were beaten mercilessly, not for stealing, but for getting caught. This punishment reinforced the value of cunning and survival skills. They were forced to endure harsh beatings, exposed to extreme weather conditions, and taught to fight with unmatched precision. Every aspect of their existence was dedicated to war, and only the strongest survived. But their training didn't end at adulthood. Spartan men remained part of the military until they were 60 years old. Unlike other civilizations where warriors could return to a civilian life, Spartans were warriors until death. Even after their peak physical years, they were expected to train the younger generation, ensuring that Sparta's military supremacy remained unchallenged for centuries. A society built on control. Spartan strictness wasn't just about training warriors. It was a rigid system that controlled every citizen's life. Unlike other Greek city-states, Sparta had no luxury-driven economy or trade-based wealth. It didn't build lavish temples or theaters. Spartan society was purposefully kept simple and isolated from external influences. It had one goal: military perfection. Women in Sparta lived under strict guidelines, but they had significantly more freedom compared to women in other Greek societies. Unlike Athenian women who were confined to their homes, Spartan women were educated, physically trained, and given more rights. They were expected to produce strong offspring and manage households while the men were at war. Spartan women famously told their husbands and sons, "Come back with your shield, or on it." To return without a shield meant retreat, an unthinkable act in Spartan culture. Even Spartan kings were bound by strict rules. Unlike the autocratic rulers of Rome or Persia, Sparta had 2 kings who ruled simultaneously, serving as military leaders rather than supreme monarchs. They could be held accountable by the Council of Elders, known as the Gerousia, and by the 5 elected officials called ephors, who ensured that no king overstepped his authority. This strict system kept the empire in check, ensuring no individual could wield excessive power. A nation without fear. What made Sparta one of the strictest empires in history was not just its discipline, but its absolute rejection of fear. In Sparta, the worst fate was not death, it was cowardice. Spartans were raised to embrace death in battle as the highest honor. Those who fled from battle were disgraced, shunned by society, and denied basic rights. Spartan law forbade retreat, and surrender was never an option. This mindset made Sparta nearly invincible for centuries. Even the mighty Persian Empire, which commanded the largest army in the ancient world, could not break Sparta's will. The Battle of Thermopylae remains one of the most legendary moments in Spartan history, where King Leonidas and his 300 warriors held off an army of thousands. Though they perished, they showcased the unbreakable spirit of Sparta, inspiring future generations with their defiance and sacrifice. The fall of Sparta. Despite its dominance, Sparta's downfall came not from external enemies but from within. Its strict system, while effective for war, was unsustainable in a changing world. Sparta's refusal to embrace change, its reliance on a small population of warriors, and its overdependence on enslaved laborers known as helots eventually led to its decline. The rigid control that made Sparta strong also made it inflexible. By the time new powers such as Macedonia rose under Alexander the Great, Sparta had already begun to fade. Its numbers dwindled, and without trade or diplomacy, it struggled to keep up with the evolving world. Eventually, it was absorbed into the greater Greek and Roman empires, its once feared dominance reduced to history. The legacy of Sparta. Though Sparta fell, its influence never disappeared. Even today, the word Spartan is used to describe discipline, toughness, and a strict way of life. Military academies worldwide study Spartan strategies, and their emphasis on resilience is echoed in modern warfare and leadership training. Sparta's legacy is a testament to the power of discipline and control, but also a warning that even the strongest systems can crumble if they cannot adapt. In the end, Sparta was more than just a city-state. It was a way of life, a symbol of unyielding strength that stood apart from the rest of the world. It operated in plain sight, feared by its enemies and respected by its allies. But while its warriors and laws made it invincible for centuries, even the strictest empire could not last forever. And so, Sparta remains one of history's greatest paradoxes, a society that embraced strength so fully that it ultimately became its own undoing.